Recently, we saw that Blizzard is revamping all of, the racial abilities for a lot of the races in the game right now. We know that some of the races are a little bit better than others at certain things. Dwarf Priest has always been a meta from back in the day. So what are the best races for your main in the War Within? I got a lot of these questions back when I posted my last video about race changes and things. So let's see what the best races are for you to choose in the War Within. I play human.
Dwarves, humans, and
We have a realm to destroy.
Johnny, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. John Bye, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
the rats. WoW has so many races, and they can be perfect
Rats.
avatar choices to represent us in the game, to help us express our imagination and
that's a good one.
creativity. Or if you are this guy, to annoy the hell out of me until I decide I need a new rug. But if you want your race to help you more in
course
the
the
game,
Volpera.
give you more damage, utility, or a cheat trick in a dungeon, which one should you pick?
Damage, okay. Let's see. This is an interesting video.
The first and most obvious choice people might want to change a race for would be to do more damage.
Right.
It's always nice to know that the race you picked for your class is the best choice for dealing more damage, healing, or just being the tankiest through the passive stat boost that you normally get. I will, however, point out that the differences are very small, so small, in fact.
They're small, so just pick whatever the hell you like. I play human. I play human all the time, anytime. That's what I'm playing. I'm a human, I'm going to play a human. This is the best race in the game, personally. Maybe a bit racist for me to say that, but I'm just going to say humans are great. In terms of the changes to damage, it's very minimal. I know for like damage, what he's about to say, probably Void Elf does pretty well as a caster. Mechanomes do pretty well. We'll see. Let's see what he says.
That they don't really matter unless
Basic
it's
bitch, Sam.
just something you like to do. Like supporting us over on Patreon, where we do
there it
some
is.
exclusive extra content.
I mean, the
for
reason why I pick human, to be completely honest with you, I like the way the armor looks on a human body. I think it's like the best silhouette, and I love their animations. So I pick it for the looks.
Ooh,
Kicking off that hype train.
in 4K glorious resolution.
Albion, thank you so much for that sub. Death Knight of our Scourge. I appreciate
Below
that.
and check it out. If you look at
Can
this ranking
always
for
use
Windwalker monks,
another
Oh my
death
god, somebody says Rampage, thank you for the sub. Continue in 4 months.
Samik love, Samik love, Samik love.
Yeah, some Samiccus love right there. Thank you,
you can see
appreciate
they
that.
are all slightly equal with the exception of Mechanomes. Yeah, you didn't expect
I knew
this one to be the king, did you?
Mechanome,
Well,
man.
starting with the War Within, it seems Mechanomes are the best choice for a race for almost all DPS specs in the
Yeah.
game. And if they are not the best, then they would be a very close contender. The main reason for this would be the racial combat analysis where, quote, you gather and analyze combat data every 5 seconds, increasing your primary stat by 4, stacking up to 8 times. The data decays
He said 8 times, but it says 10 here, so that'd be 40. Maybe it changed to 8, but it's 10 right here.
while out of combat, and 4 is just, you know, the amount at level 10, 1. This is a good ratio for specs like Arcane Mage
Primary
and even
stat buffs are
Frost
good,
Death
yeah.
Knights that benefit a lot from main stat sources funneled into their DPS windows. Statistically, it's the best race in the game with a few exceptions. It would fight with races like Trolls for specs that really favor haste. Unholy has always been such a spec favored by Trolls, since Berserking just owns. But Taurens and Dwarves are also good for classes that like to crit, like
Right.
Elemental Shamans and Feral Druids.
That's why, what's it called? Dwarves are also very good for healing. Was it because of the crits?
Provide Might of the Mountain, a 2% crit damage increase across the board, and healing increase.
Yeah.
Specs that focus on critting a lot or doing a lot of crit damage will love this. Torrents have the exact same racial in Brawn, which always confused me as to why websites like Blood Mallet that rank Dwarf highly don't do the same for Tauren or vice versa. For instance, if we look at Elemental, we see these two races pretty far apart from each other. What this could also mean is that these simulations, however equal they should be, they have a degree of human error and spec RNG variance in them that can make the results differ a bit. If that's the case, considering Dwarf and Tauren should be equal, it could just point to the conclusion that races are super balanced overall, even more. Other specs have niche favorites like Nightborn and Blood Elves. Some of these race choices won't be the best option for all of the specs of your class, so if you are interested in off-specking, I guess pick the middle ground. At the end of the day, if you really want to make the best choice for DPS gain, head on over to bloodmallet.com, and here on the website you can look up all of the best races for your spec or any other trustworthy website or aggregate data source. Otherwise, pick your race based.
Can Mechanomes be DKs? He has Frost here for a for a Mechanome. What the hell? I didn't know. Maybe they could. I haven't paid attention to it a lot. That's a badass mount. They got to give Mechanomes some mecha mounts like this, man. That's great.
A source. Otherwise, pick your race based on something else.
Okay, utility. All allied races and Pandaren. Blasphemous, to be honest with you, but yeah, that's fine.
Something like utility, for instance, and here is where you will rightfully assume I will tell you to play Dwarf. But that's not...
What the hell? Dwarves are getting W's all over the board. Dwarves are just one of the best races in the game, I guess.
The fault of dwarves, guys. They're just human. Dwarfen? But rather the encounter design team that makes combat the way it is. First of all, let's not forget, Dwarf is still a good DPS race, period. Outside of that, the best ratio in the game for all tanks and a good number of DPS players is Stone Form. This removes all poisons, diseases, curses, magic, and bleed effects from you and reduces the physical damage you take.
Damn, I didn't even know they had this. It's an instant cast too. Removes all harmful poisons, disease, curses, magic, bleed effects, and reduces all physical damage taken by 10%. This is a good tanking one too. That's a good tanking trait to have.
Considering that some of the worst things that can happen to a group is a nasty debuff, having this in your arsenal can save a healing cooldown from your healer or a tank cooldown from you. This can let you tank mechanics you are not supposed to tank, since you might want to swap tanks and let the bleed drop off. Not the case in this season as far as I know, unless we are talking about Blackrock deaths. But the sheer act of removing all debuffs on you is crazy good. Dark Iron Dwarves are similar with Fireblood. This will not give you the damage reduction, but instead give you main stats for each dispelled debuff. Night Elf is yet another race that people might not know how good it is to be. Outside the DPS increase for some specs, you will really like Shadow Meld. You can use this to drop combat, of course, but more importantly, and this is super specific by the way, you can use this to dodge certain mechanics. This changes season to season, but basically in dungeons like Siege of Borealis or Necrotic Wake, when the bosses target you with one of their mechanics, if you Shadow Meld, you cancel
waste to this realm.
Rubix, thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge. You can Shadow Meld out of mechanics? I had no idea. Oh my god, that's pretty good.
You probably should.
Warshaw.
A realm to destroy.
Thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge.
Sometimes, since it will refocus on somebody else really quickly.
That's pretty good.
Say you are in Siege and the boss is chasing you as a DPS. You can meld it and hopefully it goes on the healer. 99% of the time, the healer is the right choice since there is not much to heal.
The only thing I know Shadow Meld for is what I used to use it for back when I started playing the game way back in like 2005. I made a Night Elf Hunter. And once I hit cap level, one of the fun things to do would be to sit in low level zones. You would Shadow Meld, and then you would charge up your aim shot. And even while casting it, you could stay Shadow Melded until it casted. So you could like one shot essentially, like level whatever people. If you were geared enough and you were, you know, high enough level compared to them, you could just one shot people while Shadow Melded. And all they would hear the bow sound. They would hear that, but fucking dead instantly. Good times.
Stay in AoE and eat frontals.
That was what I used Shadow Meld
for. And you want your DPS to nuke the boss ASAP anyway. This is just an example of how this could work. At times in the past, we had Shadow Meld completely make you bypass a mechanic that can apply dots or save a person in a dicey fixated situation. You need to do a bit of research or testing to see where this could work, but that is also half the fun. With the 11.05 patch, the Dracthyr has just become available to a lot of other classes. This is a fairly new development, so not everything has been fully figured out, but I can tell you for sure that on classes like priests and warlocks, being able to glide while double jumping will give you way more mobility than before.
Yeah.
This will prove massively helpful in raid fights where positioning is key, especially if you master it properly. Although this happened...
I feel like Dracthyr racials and how good they were are in fact the reason that a lot of this shit changed. Like they brought Dracthyr in, they brought Earthen in, they have good racials, and that just made you look back at the other ones and be like, what the hell are these, all these limp dick racials, man? We gotta fix all this shit. So they went back and fixed a lot of it. Dracthyr are good for gathering professions? Oh, sure. Yeah, because they're super mobile, too.
At the high level only, it did trickle down to make people's life miserable. But on certain bosses in the past, priests could not be played in a raid unless you had an evoker, or Dracthyr rather, to swoop you around. Obviously, the rescue ability is not the same as gliding, but because of the immobility of some classes, being able to glide is a massive boon when repositioning or simply having to move out of stuff. Gliding is naturally faster than regular running. The Wing Buffet is also a nice racial to have as an extra form of crowd control that some classes, Priest again, as an example, don't naturally have access to. These are not the only races that will provide you with a utility benefit in the game, but the more predominant ones that people will gravitate towards. Tauren Druids, for instance, gain access to Stomp as their only way of doing an AoE stun, something no other Druid race can do. Void Elves can use their Spatial Rift to traverse and bypass mechanics, something even the World Force Raiders have used in their composition. Also, side note, as of recording this video, the racials for some races have been massively buffed for the 11.05 patch.
Spatial Rift is much better now. It's the one down here, and it's much quicker. It used to be a very slow-moving portal that would move and you dip to it. Now it's very quick. You could honestly, if you're really good at it, use it to dodge mechanics and raid, and use it to your advantage in PvP too. You could really dart around people now. And then Entropic Embrace is really good for casting too. Any kind of caster, I mean, you're going to be good as a Void Elf.
Void Elf included. Spatial Rift will be way faster, traverse a larger distance, and stay up for 2 seconds longer, new animations too, giving you way more reach and accessibility to this utility ability. Oh, wow. Together with this, Entropic Embrace has also been seemingly buffed by a lot. But since we don't know the final version of these or sims, it's hard to make what-if predictions, particularly since Entropic Embrace giving you 5% damage and healing every minute for 12 seconds seems crazy good. Maybe one of the best?
Yeah, it is one of the best.
The keyword here is maybe. Similarly, the Zandalari Trolls have been using Embrace of Paku since day one as the ultimate possible racial, a DPS one. But with the announced buffs, you might get more DPS options, but also more utility for some of the other racials like Embrace of Akunda, on top of the likely way better design of regenerating, not cancelling on dot damage, even if it heals for less.
Nice. Open world. I guess this is like gathering, world PvP maybe, something, traveling. Volpera are probably going to come in here with their freaking campfire shit.
Last but not least, open world or fun content,
Dracthyr with their ability to glide around.
Flavor that a lot of people do, but might not have realized there are races and racials that can make this way more fun.
Yeah, Kimball's
the first
good
one that comes to mind is the Dark Iron Dwarf's Mole Machines. This is basically a teleport device that gives you...
That's right, this is cool, and it's gotten updated, and it goes to a bunch of zones now, including Shadowlands. Now, how the lore works, where a mole machine can actually travel to the realm of death, we're just going to ignore that, because that wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, it can now.
Access to a lot of locations on Azeroth. If you also
Realms
happen to be a
nice.
mage,
We're gonna get
there's likely no zone that's inaccessible, no transmog, raids to farm that is hard to reach, or any place you cannot get to. It feels really dope to be able to go anywhere, not gonna lie. Similarly, much to my dismay, Volperas have a really dope racial in setting camp as a personal inn that can act as a Hearthstone location. No, this is not an actual Hearthstone, but an extra one. You can go only outdoors for this. You can set the camp somewhere near a delve or a dungeon or a quest hub, whatever you want, and you can use the return...
I don't know, because I don't play Volpera because I'm not a fucking furry, but when you set up your camp, does it stay even after you log out? Like, is it eternal? Is it forever where you left it unless you set up another camp, or is it when you log off, the camp goes away? Because one is pretty cool. The other is like, okay, that's kind of fun, but it's not that great in terms of utility. But if it's a forever spot, that's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure either. If there's any Volpera out in chat, there probably are, and I've scared most of them away. But if there are, let me know.
It's a camp ability to teleport there. When it comes to leveling or farming certain spots, this could come in handy big time. And once again, with the recent changes, Draktyrs make me super envious of their racials, Soar being the main one. Being your very own dragon mount, or sky riding mount, as the kids call it these days, is not only accessible but also really cool.
Stays until
Hopefully
you
not a
move,
reason to
that's
pick
cool.
this, but night elves will turn into wisps when they die, making travel times back to your corpse the fastest out of all of the other options in the game.
True.
That is, of course, if you don't avoid this scenario by shadow melding. There are also races that provide bonuses to gathering professions and crafting professions that can sometimes make a difference. Having 5 extra skill can decide on whether you can craft something at max rank or 1 rank below, while having deafness will make gathering and farming materials way faster and more convenient, especially once you unlock the gathering while mounted trait. On the
Makes
screen,
sense.
you can see a bunch of the race profession combinations, with most of them seeming very obvious and also funny as shit. Of course, Taurens would be really good at picking grass, I mean flowers, I mean herbs, for herbalism.
Those cows.
There are other more niche racials you can explore, and with the announced buffs to a lot of them, we can probably expect an overall shift of what racials do, how powerful they are, and which classes race combos would be the best to suit your needs. And if you are indeed starting a new character, especially a tank, and you already chose your race, then watch our video on what tank you should actually go for.
Oh,
We
yeah,
talk about
being
the
a
best
tank.
choices for beginners based on difficulty, fun, and performance levels.
It's a pretty good video. If I could summarize it, to be honest, the best race in the game is freaking dwarves.
Can always use another death.
Sam the Man, thank you for gifting that sub to Zrax. Zrax, thank you. You are now a Death Knight of our Scourge thanks to Sam the Man. Great name.
Come, servant. We
And
have a
Megalodon.
realm to destroy.
Megalodon, my son's favorite dinosaur slash thing. He always says, oh, Megalodons are my favorite animal. And I tell him, but they're extinct. They can't be your favorite. He goes, yes, they can. I tell him, all right. Thank you for the follow. I will let my son know today that a Megalodon is, in fact, following me on Twitch now. Appreciate the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. Even High Mountain Torn Druids,
Can
mining
always
special.
use
Alex.
Another death
Whoa,
knight.
with all these subs. Thank you so much. If the hype train wasn't on a freaking cooldown right now, I'd go off again. Thank you so much for the sub. 4 months, 21 in total. Holy crap, that's a lot of subs. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that, Death Knight of our Scourge. They were an animal that existed. This is true, and he knows that. He knows that. That's why he says they're his favorite. I don't even know what I was saying after that runoff right now of subs and follows. Thank you so much for all of that. Yeah, dwarves are the best. Dwarves are the best, and everything else comes after, I guess. They're just great at DPS. They're great at healing. They're great at gathering. They're
Always
great at
use
professions.
Another death knight.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Keep it up, Habibi.
Shuck, thank you so much, Habibi, for that sub. 2 months now, prime sub, and thank you so much. I appreciate it. Death Knight of our Scourge. And then, yeah, there's the Gatherers, the Torn, and everyone else. Great video from Marcellian here.